When 80 students from 30 different countries meet at a castle in the southeastern corner of Austria near the Slovene border, there's something that happens within that meeting. So my name is Roberta Meyerhofer. I'm the director of the Graz International Summer School Seggau.
I'm Michael Kuhn. I'm one of the founders of the summer school, and together with Roberta since 11 years also the organizer of this summer school.
It is really not about what you take from the table, but what you bring to the table. This is the general spirit of the school. Everybody wants to contribute.
The basic idea was to create a meeting place for students where students from the old and from the new member states could meet and exchange, had the possibility to get each other to know. And the idea was to bring together students from different faculties, from different institutes, from different topics, if you want, and to enable them to discuss one topic from different perspectives, from different disciplines. This, I think, was the point of departure.
The summer school is probably best described as a meeting place, as a platform for communication, and where people from different fields of studies, from different backgrounds, from different interests come together and prepared to talk about their interests in an open discussion of commonality and difference.
It's very like a small community. You get to meet new people, and you get to hear where they're from, and they have so many interesting stories about their homeland. So I think that's the most thing that I've gotten out of it. The experiences from the different people coming together, from different countries, different parts of the world, and I really like that aspect of the summer school.
In terms of their disciplines, sometimes they have very clear understanding what their field of study is. Here at the summer school, they have to reconsider some of these aspects of certainty. Sometimes they have to reconsider the possibilities of what their field offers, and sometimes they also have to reconsider certain assumptions that they had, not only about others, about other nations, about the discipline as such, about whomever they meet, but often also about themselves. The summer school took on different forms over the years. At the beginning, the mission was clear to sort of talk about a European identity in a changing European Union. So in the focus of the summer school was European studies, but very quickly it became clear that we can't talk about a European identity if we do not talk about an outside European identity. And through the emphasis area of the University of Graz, in North, Central and South America, this other, this beyond, was defined as the American continent. So one of the important changes in terms of the content of the summer school was to define, on the one hand, a European identity in relation, in contrast, perhaps in negotiation, what an American identity is. So what we have done over the years was always keep a certain stable structure, keep a stable level of how we want to do something, choosing new topics, but always also in terms of a question of transformation, change, shifting perspectives, and then adding certain new aspects. Recently, we have added more aspects, not just of how we talk about the field, but how do we talk about the field to a wider community. So the last years have shown us that it's not only important to know facts, to understand the discipline, to work in terms of what academia demands, but how do we then transport those academic contents? How do we convey information that we have to the wider public?
It combines several ways of learning. You have presentation, like frontal presentation in the morning, and then discussions within the groups with other people, which is something actively done. Another thing is the workshops that are more applicable, something you can use and do and take it with you back home and work with it. And the seminars, well, they're just adding to the knowledge that you came with, because they're more specified with your topic that you're interested in. The whole variety just adds to the experience.
Yeah, that's 7 different seminars are devoted to small class interventions discussing the topic of transformation, transgressions and trust in Europe and the Americas within the disciplinary focus. The topic will always be the backbone of anything we do in that level. And therefore, these discussions don't always have to be called upon. They don't always have to be as obvious, but they're the backbone of the whole program.
The classroom experience is very intimate. Seminars with no more than 12 students permits you to learn their names, know their background. What is fascinating about the summer school is that in the same classroom you have undergraduate students, master's students, PhD students, which in other places might be a recipe for disaster. The length of the summer school, 2 weeks or 1 week, depending on how many weeks one is invited, lets you go to a level of knowledge that it's not too deep, but at the same time, we all learn from one another at the different levels of knowledge that we bring into the classroom, which cannot happen in any other setting. One of the nicest things is that undergrad students lose the fear of all those masters and PhDs. They're just advanced in their academic careers, but nothing more than that. And I believe that encouraged them to pursue further.
The summer school is a meeting ground for me, and I think for many of the students who come here. They come from many different locations, they come from many different kinds of places in their own academic trajectory.
I think the meeting points take place in very different forms. Some of the meeting points are, of course, the more traditional structural meeting points, that is the lecture hall, the seminar rooms, but at the same time the meeting points take place in the morning, going jogging with a professor, going to the meditation with Michael Kohn, but at the same time at the lunches and dinners the possibility of an overflow of discussions can take place.
The topic of this summer school, transformation, transgression, and trust, relates to all seminars, and especially for economics has been very useful to assess what is commonly taught as economic development through a different transformative process. Not just a series of statistics, but how it interacts and how it is informed with more of the other disciplines. The idea of transgression as well is part of how economic systems evolve. Think of now the new technologies like the sharing economy, Uber, Airbnb. All these are small transgressions. Well, they are not small transgressions. They are transgressions on established industries. And that's the way the new world is shaping up to be. So it's very good. The aspect of trust goes unnoticed in most of economic analysis, but what has to be there. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a functioning market, a functioning government, and it is very rich. This year's topic, transformation, transgression, and trust, is very rich for its umbrella capacity with all the seminars.
So in the case of the aging seminar, we're thinking about transformations at a kind of broader societal level, because we've been looking at the kinds of data and statistics about the different ways that population aging is happening in different parts of the world. And transformation is not a singular thing, it's something that's happening in different ways, in different locations. In the same way, you can think about aging as a process of transformation over time, but it's not a transformation that happens suddenly. I don't become old suddenly. I don't jump from one thing to another. So it's a stroke of pedagogical genius on the part of the summer school to suggest a set of terms that actually can be debated and discussed in different classroom environments.
The most important aspect of the summer school is being together all the time. Breaking hierarchies, barriers, socializing, exchanging ideas, having fun is what makes it unique. And without it, it would be just an open campus, come to the classroom setting, see you tomorrow.
If somebody would want a definition of the community without it being written in words, they could just come here and observe. And one of the reasons for this is this splendid isolation. This is, after all, in a castle, which is 40 minutes on foot from the next town. So there is this sense of isolation, yet splendid isolation. Yet the place has all the facilities and all the possibilities of interaction that you could wish for. So in this, technically speaking, isolated environment, there is no isolation but interaction.
It's like the best idea of monastery and university with a swimming pool.
And I think that kind of forced isolation in this location is incredibly productive.
And I believe that the summer school, because of the setting, because of having these meeting points, because of sort of having the possibility of not just learning in the traditional environment, offers exactly that kind of experience of embodying the aspects that one's talking about, of having a possibility of negotiating the question of the abstract and the concrete.
My biggest impression here is how everything is relaxed and how professors are approachable. We have seminars with them, we have lunch, dinner and breakfast with them, and anytime we can come and talk to them, we play sports together, and that's not something I had before.
And one of the interesting aspects of the summer school is participants take away more than they expect, and they take away not only facts and knowledge, but also how facts and knowledge are produced and how facts and knowledge can be discussed.
My notes are full of just reminders. Okay, take a look at that and figure out this. And I feel like after I come home, I will have so much more work because this is a huge source of knowledge, information. And I got interested in so many more stuff after this. It's not just I came to the economics seminar, but I heard so many different topics that are so good and I got interested in them, so I want to learn more.
It is so focused on academia. I mean, of course, other things are as well, but this is very focused, and you are entering a world of deep thoughts, of dialogues, of where you have a hard time getting out of. So by the end of the day, you're still thinking about stuff, even though you know it's over and it's still on your mind, and it's hard to turn off. But it definitely shapes you and your thoughts, the way you start to think, the way you look at things. It's just a heavy focus on actually thinking. Thinking is hard. Yeah.
It has challenged me a lot, even in the basic levels, that I have to keep up with intensiveness, with pressure, with following and keep moving, which it has been challenging but also enjoyable. And it has even put it out of me more than I was when I came here. So it has developed those things that I had more rather than before.
Students step out of their comfort zone as soon as they arrive, when they have to establish new friendships, new identities in a very short time capsule. As the summer school goes along, you have big forums where they have to speak up in front of 100 people. That's not normal for them, I suppose. And also when they engage into more detailed discussions among PhDs, masters, and undergrad students. That is a shift that they don't have usually.
It's challenged me by thinking outside the box. The question and answer discussions were different, and the level of interaction as well was different. The way that we had to pose different questions to the speakers and reconceptualize our own ways of thinking. I think that has challenged me the most, because I've had to really be technical about my questions and really think about it as well. And prior to the summer school, I wasn't really inclined to think outside the box as much as I should, so it definitely challenged me in that way.
Each year there's a very different group of students, but the experience is always unique. Each individual student takes something very specific away from it.
That certain issues are the same in different countries and see them from different perspectives, different angles. So you really start seeing things in a more diversified way, in a more balanced way.
I've kind of enlarged my box, to put it like that, and to see outside it, to see even outside the box, and really taken, even now, and I will take them, a lot of instruments that are really very adaptive to solve many problems, because we put it in practice, but we take the theoretical part, and the theoretical one is adapted to every kind of practical situation.
In 2015, we decided to establish a book series, and we called it Off Campus Seggau School of Thought. We wanted to reflect what sort of academic encounters take place. We felt that there was real serious academic investigations taking place, that something was triggered within these 2 weeks at Schloss Seggau. And therefore the understanding was that we want to also document that. We want to also, of course, offer platforms of knowledge. We want others to read about some of the work that was developed here during the summer school, and we also wanted to encourage further research on that basis.
The Seggau School of Thought is the product of all these things that we've been mentioning. Intersectionality, interacting. I mean, they sound empty sometimes, as empty words, when they are just uttered like this. The spirit of the Seggau School is that these empty words become embodied in a way, and everybody carries with themselves something that is not just words, but something experiences which include one's own person and which include actually the persons of everybody else in the school.
This approach brings together a notion that we have to sort of talk about the abstract and the concrete in order to define both commonalities and differences. So what we're doing in terms of the Seggau School of Thought is not merely talking about facts, but we're also looking at the aspect of how knowledge is created, how these facts are interpreted. And therefore, we then can learn to negotiate differences in terms of finding a meeting point of academic discussion.
The spirit of the summer school is fascination, mental sweat, and diversity.
The summer school here was really a human experience, you know, getting to know people, hearing and listening to people. It was not just an academic experience. It was more than that. And I thought I would come here just to learn, to study. And actually what I've learned here is not only pure knowledge, but it's also methodology, it's human relationships, it's international relations. We had a lot of talks about the question of who we are as people, who we are as nations. So all of these questions were kind of put back into perspective. So that's probably one thing, but also I also learned that being a good researcher is not finding the good answers. It's asking the good questions.
During this week and a half or 2 weeks, we actually learned how to speak after we think, because we learned how to listen to other people and to be more sensitive to what they feel and what may hurt their feelings. And this is something that we should take with us back home to our daily lives.
Each time at the end of the summer school, when the students give their presentations, when the students provide a platform where they tell us what they have learned. That is each time a very special moment, and it's never quite clear up to that moment whether it will happen, because sometimes there are difficulties that arise during the summer school. There are questions about the structure, the content. Is this what we're learning here enough? Is it too much? Is this too much being done in different forms? And each time the students pull it off in terms of their own presentations. And I think that's the unique aspect. We have a structure that is in place. We have a system that works. We have a way of doing things. But then the students within those 2 weeks pick up our ideas and make it in something that is their own. And that is unique.